recommend trying to keep the bend on the inside. So if you could see, or sorry, the bend is on the inside, so you might not be able to see it. Alright, so if you want to know how I set this up for a heavier set, I'll get it like this. Just stand up, get everything tight, and then fail it. Alright, so if you're strong enough to get that, do not ever sacrifice form for any of this crap. Once again, these are stretch-based workouts. We're not trying to do anything power-based. If you're able to do this stretch-based and able to comfortably get that out, power to you. But we're not doing that, okay? I'm not doing it. I can't do that. So we're going to jump to some single-handed. All right. With single-handed, what matters more than anything versus weight, tension, or any of that is going to be form. So once again, we're going to get tension on both. Just find a midpoint, get tension on, and create a handle for yourself. Gives you a much better idea of the tension on both the ends of the band. Oh, when I start like this, alright, and we can just go ahead and try to keep that elbow static. Alright. And because this is stretch-based, we're really getting activation there. Oh, God. So on that one, I had the same foot with the same hand. We can go ahead, whichever one is more comfortable for you. You can try an opposite way. So when I switch hands here, I'm just going to show you what I mean. So I started with this side with this hand, correct? So what we're going to go ahead and do this time is I'm going to run it a different way. If you see the line of pull, it is going this way, down this way. So now when I perform it, it's still providing tension in the correct direction. I believe I need one more. Alright, so I'm going to drop it down for the single-handeds. Alright, we're going to go ahead and give it 1 minute. When you have more stretch-based workouts, the reason I recommended a 2-minute minimal rest time between sets in one of my previous videos is because stretch-based workouts are going to obviously cause more microfractures, more tears. So you want to make sure you're getting a much more appropriate recovery between each set, so you're not causing tears to a point where they're not going to grow back for hypertrophy. They're going to repair because they need to repair. Okay, we want them to grow bigger. We need those just little microfractures so they fill in and get bigger. If you start tearing it too much, with too much stretching, not enough set recovery, or recovery between your sets, you could cause those micro tears to tear too much. Okay? Obviously it's not going to cause massive amount of damage. Your kidneys aren't going to start breaking down proteins and stuff. But what will happen is you will steal hypertrophic potential away from that muscle body, because you've now broken, the microfractures are to a point now where it's not going to grow back for hypertrophic potential. It's going to grow back for simple recovery. It needs to recover itself, and not recover itself in a way to function. Recovery for functioning, not recovery to increase power output. Okay? This is, once again, stretch-based workouts. Alright? So once again, I just want to show this band in time will break just like my other broken red band. This is not from overuse, not from improper cleaning techniques. This is from, once again, using it on doors, like having it running on top of a door, and not having some type of cloth or sock or some type of object on underneath it. So when it's under that tension, when it's under this great tension, it's pressing against the top of the door, and it actually ate into the rubber a bit, even though it feels smooth at the top of the door, okay? So that's what happened with my bands. That's what you have to be careful with yours, most likely. And you also have to be careful with cleaning. You just want to make sure you clean them quick. I'll clean them after today, actually, and I'm going to show you. So, we're just going to go ahead and struggle for a second. I forgot I was going to show you some light ones. So we're going to go ahead, and I like using cross foot in general. What I mean by that is I have it run from left foot, right hand. The way I do this is I twist my hand like this, and I usually just go like this, and I'm already in position. Everyone's different. With these, you want to really just stretch it out, and as you can see, the band is right behind this leg. So the tension is being applied in the direction the muscle is lengthening it. It is so good for hypertrophic potential. And I've lost count. I believe this is 5. Once again, this is for stretch based. We're not trying to hammer out a heavy dumbbell, a heavy seated dumbbell where our core is stabilized completely. We're not doing any of that. We are stretching and maintaining a proper form to get that growth that we want, all right? And for the long head of the tricep, the most things that are going to activate it are going to be when your shoulders are over, or basically more of an overhead tricep workout. When you have your hands more to your side, you work more of the, I do believe it's the lateral tricep, the midpoint of the tricep. But when the medial tricep only does one thing. This lower part of the tricep only does this. All it does is stabilize your elbow. That's why when you hyperextend your elbow, you see activation in there, because you're hyperextending the main stabilizer for the elbow, which is the medial tricep. So if you want to grow the medial tricep, grow it for mass, this little portion, this down here, the only workouts that are going to gain mass in that area is going to be a stretch-based kickback of some type, because all you're doing is stabilizing the elbow under load. And the only muscle that, well, obviously other stabilizers are involved, but the only muscle under a strong contraction should be the lateral tricep. A great example is if you go grab a dumbbell, and if I put my hand over here at the back, alright, and I'm going to go ahead and just go down like this. Alright, so you can see that there's medial tricep activation by doing that. Now, if I put my hand more forward like this, and I go ahead and do it, same activation roughly, but there is a little bit more activation. It'll be actually best to do it with a kettlebell. The reason why is using Jeff Nippard's Arm Science Explained video, specifically the portion near the end where he is doing the medicine ball tricep push-ups. He cites a paper specifically on stabilization, having greater increased stabilization requirement of the tricep, yielding greater tricep activation, is most likely due to the medial triceps function in general of being an elbow stabilizer. So if you're using a traditional dumbbell, you're still stabilizing, still getting great activation. But when you use a kettlebell, you've now created another stabilization point. it won't be a huge, abundantly massive amount of activation increase, but there will be a greater stabilization and a greater activation of the medial tricep specifically for hypertrophic potential. That is theoretical and is completely based off of the peer-reviewed paper from, as I stated, Jeff Nippard's Arm Science Explained video, specifically I believe the last 3 minutes before the vlog, where he talks about medicine ball push-ups and the stabilization of the triceps, of tricep exercises yielding greater tricep activation. I believe that's simply just due to the fact, as I previously stated. So I'm going to go ahead and switch from the single-handeds, and we're going to move our phone. We're going to struggle to move our phone. Alright. Hello, fam. So this is going to be pretty simple. I'm going to go ahead and just use squat here. So once again, we want increased stabilization here. So what we're going to go ahead and do is go grab ourselves some flip-flops. Give me a moment. Alright. So once again, we're just going to get our flip-flops into that door. We want that stabilization in that door because we're about to put it under tension. Alright? So, and once again, we need a cloth for this. I'm just going to go ahead and use a sock. Just a simple sock. Run it across the door and make sure your band's on top of it. So now when your band's under that tension and when that tension is increased at the top, the latex rubber is thinned out and under tension, so it protects the band. In this case, we're going to go ahead and use the band like this. You can go ahead and double up the band if you'd like to create handles on each side, but it will give you a lot more tension on each end, okay? I don't trust this door with that amount of tension, to be honest. So we're going to go ahead and... Alright, so... And if you find that when you pull down, you could feel there's too much tension on the cable, like it might be at risk itself, we're just going to go ahead and slide our hands down. Sorry. And for these, you want to think about performing the Atari symbol. I know it sounds a little silly, but you're not just going up and down. You're performing the Atari symbol. Pull back a bit. Sweep back a bit. Using this as an example, is you're going like this. You're hammering it to the side and out. To the side and out. That's why when you use a rope, you're supposed to bring it to the side and out. You feel, you get much greater activation. If you're just going like this, once again, you're just getting elbow flexion. You will get tricep activation, but for the part of the tricep that you're meant to hit, for this, the mid portion of the tricep, this would be improper activation, okay? It would be improper form and everything. Still fine, but for bodybuilding purposes, it wouldn't be optimal. Alright. So, I want more tension, but I don't trust this band, because it just feels like I have to put this band, so another thing to explain is this band has to undergo a great amount of tension for it to get to the same amount of tension this one. So I have to pull this one like this in order to get to the same tension this is, okay? And sometimes when you switch to a thicker band, it feels like the door could take it because it feels like it's not under more tension, even though it technically is. I am not trusting this door. So just make sure you're stepping a bit more forward. And Atari symbol. Alright? With the bands, you cannot perform it exactly the same way that you would a traditional cable pull down, okay? What I mean by that is I am more like this, okay? I have to keep it a little bit more, you can't bring it more like this with the band because you'll be squeezing the band together and it becomes very difficult. With this, you want to make sure you're getting proper form and activation of the, you're not too worried about that. So, once again, I forgot where I was going with that. Hopefully it makes sense. Hopefully. Alright. And so let's say I want to drop the tension down, but I don't want to switch the band. I'm being lazy now, okay? So, just slide your hand down further. If you slide your hand down further, it has less tension on each end, and we can go ahead and perform our Atari symbol. This band that floats in front of me can sometimes be annoying. Just ignore it. Make sure your band is on the door properly, and make sure your form is proper. Okay? That might have been a little bit too much attention. I'm going to go ahead and show a lighter example. Let's say you end up with a broken band, like myself, and you don't know what to do. So what we're going to do is just go ahead and get it on there. And you can just make sure tension on each end is proper. And you're good to go. Alright, with these once again, although I was just hammering them out a second ago, we want these to be stretch based. You want that stretch. And you also want to be mindful of where you're standing. I've been hit in the face, I've been hit in the chest, I've been hit everywhere with the resistance bands. At this point, there is almost no way, there's very minimal ways that a person should be able to hurt themselves with resistance bands, as long as they know what they're doing. The number one risk, in my opinion, will be the end of sets. Alright? So like the end of, well, like the shoulder I showed you when you're stuck like this. Alright, when you're stuck like this, and you don't know what to do, it's best to always just try your best to release tension. If you don't know what to do with your hands, drop your butt down, and you'll always figure it out. Though that will be the biggest risk, though, is the end of sets for people, most likely. And as long as you're keeping an eye on your cable's line of pull, you should never have it come off the top of doors or any of that. Alright? I've used socks, I've used paper bags. Nothing truly makes it roll forward unless you're pulling it at an incorrect angle. So you're at the door, using the door as one. Alright? And if you have it like this, it shouldn't be rolling forward, okay? If your bands are circular, let's say the surgical tubing, throw them out and I don't want to talk about them, okay? I hate them. I hate them with a very lovingly hateful passion, okay? Surgical tubing is meant for surgery, not for working out. Alright, so we're going to say goodbye to that. We're going to go back up here. And I'm just going to go over just a little bit of band etiquette before I start cleaning my bands. Oh, there's actually one more thing I wanted to show. So this might become a little bit more difficult because it requires a mind-muscle connection, or at least a good understanding of the bands that you're working with. So we want to get it under 1 foot. Once we have it under 1 foot, we need to make sure we have the same resistance on each side down here. Alright? And find a good starting spot. And once you have your hand here, you do not let this go. When you switch to the other side, you switch your hand with this hand. And it'll keep as close to the same tension as possible. So what we're going to do here is just, I recommend standing up, just to make sure everything feels nice and tight like a toiger. Alright, so we're just going to See, I'm a little pooched, and this is a deload. I'm not trying to go heavy. We're just gonna drop it down even more. So with this, because I'm losing so much tension at the bottom range of motion, I'm gonna just go ahead and go like this. I do not recommend this if you do not have the form to do this, or if your shoulder mobility or shoulders feel like they're coming into play. Not everybody will be able to do that comfortably. With some people, if they hammer it back too much while they're doing it, they'll feel like they're getting some tricep inactive or improper tricep or shoulder and lower or upper back activation, and it'll become tight and it'll cease up in that area. If that happens, immediately change your form or change what you're doing. Okay. These are just ideas, alright? I usually use a dumbbell for this. I do not like using the bands for, okay, drop it down. I do not like using the bands for medial tricep, okay? So once again, what you need to do for the medial tricep is going to be elbow stabilization. If you're doing any workout that requires elbow stabilization, it's going to activate that medial tricep. The kickback is going to be the workout that works out the medial tricep to the highest degree though. Alright? Just some other ideas in case you have nothing else. I'm going to be back in 1 minute. Let's say all you have is a chair, and you say, I don't know what to do with that. I don't know. A very good tricep workout that really doesn't require any power at all, and is actually, it would be considered, it's basically a negative close grip push-ups. But with these, you want to have our feet up. With these, it forces our elbows back, it forces our shoulders in a position more to focus on more of the lower portion of the tricep. If you do it more natural shoulder positioning or even flat bench and you're able to get it up higher, you're going to hit much more of the long head of the tricep, okay? Although the triceps are all activated in all tricep workouts because they synergistically work together, what we're doing is just trying to get better targeting and better activation, okay? I don't know if I have enough room here. Alright, so worst case scenario, let's move this bench. And now, if you find this to be uncomfortable, you could just do this on the ground. But once again, I'm doing this because I want that greater tricep activation at the bottom. And it's specifically due to the angle. It's gonna be much more of the lower portion of the triceps because it's based on your shoulder positioning. If you have a more upright shoulder, you're gonna hit more of the long head of the tricep. Even a neutral form is going to hit. But once you start bringing it back, your shoulders back, those medial triceps become a lot more activated. A great example of this would simply be to try this on a decline bench if you have one available. I don't recommend going heavy. Alright, so once again, throwing ideas out there for some people. I do not have that in my routine. Once again, I just do traditional dumbbell. If you want to see what I do. This is not a part of this video, but I might as well show what I do in case some people are curious or have this available. I do double. I never do single. That's one negative about doing the resistance bands medial triceps. Alright, so this is the way I do them. I wanted to get just Medial tricep activation, and even though it's supposed to feel like day, just I want a little bit more activation. All right. So we've covered our flat bench mimic, our chest fly mimic. We went over some variations with the chest flies and the bench press in terms of hitting the pectoralis or the clavicular head of the pec, the upper portion. And we went over overhead tricep extensions, both double-handed and single-handed. And we went over some tricep variations and basically kickbacks, tricep kickbacks. My honest recommendation is, if you're doing this, I recommend keeping to a more traditional / compound type routine. What I mean is, stick to an overhead tricep extension and then a standing tricep extension. You do not need to even do a kettlebell or anything for medial tricep specifically, unless you're looking for more mass there, okay? If you're doing this at home naturally or just for fun or just to be healthy, some of these isolations need to be thrown out for you, because they're not going to be viable if you're not trained to do them appropriately, to progressively do them. Even if you do train at a lighter weight to do them, it is fine, but we want to traditionally stick to our traditional stuff, okay? We don't want to try to reinvent the wheel here. There's a reason that people have been working out the same way for the last forever pretty much, and it's always worked, okay? Alright, what else should we go over? I'm going to go ahead and just set up. It'll only take me 10-15 seconds. We're going to go ahead and go over some more band etiquette and cleaning the bands. Alrighty, so we got our cleaner, and we're going to go ahead and clean our bands. And if you're wondering how I do it, that's why I'm showing you. What I had in that little spray bottle was, Lysol. What I've done is I've ran this under hot water. The water was already hot, and then I sprayed it a couple times and then completely wrung it out. So it smells like Lysol, it's clean, it has Lysol in it, but it's not drenched in Lysol, okay? And now, all you have to do is grab it, put it into one of your fingers just like that. Once you tighten it up, you can just... Alright, so one band's done. We're going to clean the little bands today, too. A nice little clean. And the great part is, once you've done this pinching method, it becomes very easy to clean them. Alright, so we got the broken band next. And as long as you're not using too much cleaner in your rag, they can sit wet for a few minutes. They can sit wet, probably it's dry, it's fine. But if you're using any type of cleaner that isn't vinegar, you want to be doing what I'm going to be doing after this, which is going to be, I'm going to turn on the fan behind me. I want them to dry out. I need them to dry out as soon as possible, okay? The cleaning chemicals do have the possibility of causing latex damage, and we don't want to sacrifice our latex, okay? Especially if you're using this traditionally or consistently. I use these completely during lockdown, so you don't want to be risking your bands. I've already broken several, and a couple of them are already due to break. And the reason why only the black one and red ones is because of the door frames, as I said, or my anchors, basically. My anchors were improper. Under tension, it was causing damage to the latex. So once again, I'm drying up a bit, so I'm just going to give it another little spray. And just keep wiping it down. We want to do this because depending on if you're using these consistently, especially if you're sharing these. If you're doing these alone, you can get away with not cleaning them for a while. But if you use these with anybody else in any way, shape, or form, they have to be cleaned almost every other time. The reason why is because latex and sweat, it chills. It has no problem hanging out. And bacterial growth is a very high possibility. For those wondering, yes, I have gone about 2 months of not cleaning these and did end up with bad back knee. And that wasn't based on me being unhealthy or anything, it was based on unhygienic cleaning practices with my resistance bands. And I was storing them improperly as well. So, this is our last band. Once again, I'm going the wrong way, so we're just going to go this way. And I'm just running the band on the ray as tight as I can so it's cleaning it. Remember, my blue one has a kink in it, so I have to do the blue one tighter than the rest. And I'm going to go over that one again. And the great thing is, if you feel like going over again, just keep going. If you need to switch hands, I don't know why, but it does feel a little tiring on your arm sometimes, maybe because it's after a workout, but just switch hands and keep going. If you didn't feel like you got the other side good enough, switch it up. And now, I'm just going to show you what I usually do, and then I'm going to shut it off. So I let it sit for roughly about 10 to 30 seconds, and then I'll usually flip it. And I don't do anything fancy. I just pick it up and make sure it's all getting dry. And you can turn it up if you want, or turn it off. I'm going to go ahead and finish up this video so I can turn on this fan. But you want to make sure you're cleaning your bands. You want to make sure that you're not doing jerky movements and blah 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 blah. Any questions or anything? Just shoot me a comment. I am a space cadet, so I get lost very much so, but I always find my way. Alright, thank you for watching and have a great day. Bye.